Yes.
Sorry, when you want the code the CSS,
Yeah.
and then you double click, and then you get to JavaScript, you can do something. Is that very interesting?
I'm like just fooling around. I'm doing it, but it doesn't seem like. I feel like it's not really. It feels like everything's
Yeah, I should download it. Whatever you say. What to do, but features as well. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For this session, Rahman Harith will be giving a talk titled From Noob to Pentester, How to Get Started in Pentesting. Rahman Harith is a social arts and science graduate. Rahman successfully adopted in information technology, where his interest is in cybersecurity. He currently is a system administrator full-time and continues to learn about ethical hacking as an interest. This session will provide you with a guide and shortcut that you need from a certified pen tester who started with zero background in IT. Rahman Harith will be answering questions towards the end of the talk. If you have any questions, feel free to type in your questions in the Q&A box, or you can ask your questions at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, please welcome Rahman Harith.
Right. All right. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. So, hope everyone's doing well. And for the next 1 hour, 30 minutes, I'll be presenting. I'll do a 30-minute presentation, and then I will do a TryHackMe demonstration, which hopefully I will finish it within 30 minutes. So without further ado, let's get started. My title for this presentation, as said before, Noob to Pentester, how to get started in pen testing. A little bit about myself. So I'm a full-time system administrator working in the oil and gas industry. Recently became a certified junior pen tester during the summer of this year. Educationally, I didn't start as geography. I was destined to be a geographer. I was a social arts and science student 10 years ago, and then decided to switch to IT. Quite a risky decision at the time, especially if during that time I was getting straight A's in geography, but I realized that it wasn't challenging anymore, and wanted to go enter into a new subject that was challenging and also emerging trend at the time. So that's when I switched to IT. So here we are 10 years later, and it all worked out, right? So we'll get to that journey later on. During the last 3 years, I started to do cybersecurity at home, self-learning in cybersecurity, and that I will also get into that later on. Challenges and failures, I put that there because if you decide to pursue this type of career, you will have to overcome this 24/7, because you have to put yourself in the position of a hacker. When a hacker tries to exploit somebody, they will not achieve it first time, right? So they will keep being persistent. And if you are in the position of the hacker, when you fail the first time, they're not going to give up. They're just going to keep pursuing you, keep persistent. So you have to have that mentality. I'll talk more about that later on in my journey, because it takes adaptation to really get used to being denied entry or being denied access. So the flow of this presentation is that I will describe the what, the why, and the how. This is mainly on what is pen testing, why is it needed nowadays, how to get into it. I will share a little bit of my journey. We'll have a TryHackMe demonstration, and then lastly, the Q&A. I'll put yourself in my shoes 12 years ago in 2011, when I started to become curious in IT. And there was this very, very famous attack on the PlayStation network. How many of you all remember this, or do you know it now? Basically, what happened was that this hacktivist group, I think it was anonymous, put down the PlayStation network for 1 month, and as a result, gamers around the world could not play video games for 1 month. So just imagine if that were to happen today, especially with gaming being a billion-dollar industry, with cross-play and everything like that. Even 1 week, people are already complaining. But this actually happened 12 years ago, and PSN was down for 1 month. So it affected me because I couldn't play video games 1 month, and I began to ask the three questions of what is it, why is this happening, and how, as a person who did not have, because I was still a geography student at the time, how can I contribute? How can I enter the cybersecurity industry and understand why this is happening, and prevent this from happening in Brunei, but not only in Brunei, but also around the world. So we'll get to that journey later on, but let's ask those questions of the what, the why, and how of why did this happen. So what is pen testing? Generally, if you look at the perception, the general public view of a hacker is is this person. Somebody who has ill intent of trying to steal data with in Brunei, if you say the word hacker, it's usually related to scammers, people sending you phishing links. Recently, I think during the past few weeks, there was a DHL scam, and a lot of people trying to manipulate the public into trying to click links that they shouldn't have clicked. So in general, the view of hackers, even if you mention the word hackers, is the perception is bad. But on the other side of it, there is hacking can actually be good. And this is where the term ethical hacking comes in, or known as pentesting, or also known as red teaming. Basically, these guys have this same exact skill set as what a normal hacker would do, and also they have the same goals, which is to exploit and take control of your system. But the difference is in the permissions and the access. Usually companies, they will hire these pen testers to test out their network and infrastructure, just to see how strong is my network, is there any vulnerabilities. And when they actually do this, when they actually do the simulated hack of the company's organizational infrastructure, they manage to gain access, they manage to obtain administrative privileges on their system. And after that, they will create a report, and then this report will have the recommendations, the findings, how did they manage to get in. And then from there, the organization will do patching to strengthen their infrastructure. So at least they have done a simulated attack, and then next time they will have high confidence that they will have high confidence that their system is much stronger than before, and therefore reduces their attack surface. I think to really explain this further, so there are three types of hackers. There's black hat, gray hat, and a white hat. So the difference between all three of them are two things. First is permission, and then the other one is intent. So we'll start on the right-hand side. For a white hat, they are provided permission and they are provided intent. So permission meaning to say that the company gives them access to hack into our system, like, hey, here's the access, please hack into our system, and please report any vulnerabilities. On the far left, there's the black hat, which all of you know. These guys, they don't have permission, they just break the law, and then with the intent of trolling, stealing money, and for identity theft. We have seen this type of hacker very common, not only responsible for cyber incidents in Brunei, but also around the world. Then in the middle there's a bit of a gray area, and these guys are called gray hats. They don't have permission, but their intent is to report vulnerabilities. I would like to call them, they're like the modern day Robin Hood. So they're like the anti-vigilante. So let's say a Deadpool, or if you can think of any anti-heroes, that would apply to a gray hat. For a black hat, any hacktivist, threat like Anonymous, or if you heard of the Lazarus Group from North Korea, that's also considered black hat. For a white hat, it's basically any cybersecurity defense organization. In Brunei, we have ITPSS, so that's considered a white hat. Types of pen tests, so I'll just go through this very quickly. First is the network, and this is the most common one. So pen testers will just do scanning of your firewalls, your servers, and try to find vulnerabilities from there. Web app is trying to find vulnerabilities in a web application, in a website. Same with a mobile application. Mobile application is actually starting to become a trend now for penetration testing. Social engineering, these are people who they train you in order you to not provide access that you are not supposed to provide. Physical pen tests, so people actually try to simulate trying to rob a building. And lastly is a cloud pen test. So if you have a Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS, that can be pen tested as well using some tools. There are 5 stages of pen testing. First one is the planning. So this involves engaging with the organization. Usually what they provide is a documentation called the rules of engagement. So under this rules of engagement, there are a lot of, it shows which IP addresses that they're going to hack, what are the objectives, what is the scope, and what are the expected outcomes, things like that. Then the second one is information gathering, also called reconnaissance. So this is when they actually start the pen test. And in this stage, it's, if you think about it, if you're trying to rob someone or trying to rob a building, a physical building, you cannot just enter into that building. You have, right? You have to have, you want to try to get information about the building. What time does it open? Who are the employees? So I would say stage two, where I would simply put it, is you're trying to get information that is public. Then after you have gathered all the information, you move on to step three, which is scanning. It's the same as information gathering, except that you're actually inside of the premise. You're actually inside of the network. And you want to find out more information about what is inside. So usually in this stage, the ethical hackers would launch a vulnerability scan, and they will try to find any weaknesses within that system. Once they do find weaknesses, they move on to stage 4, which is exploitation. And in this stage, they have already compromised the weakness within that system. So they usually what happens is they are a normal user. They move horizontally or otherwise known as laterally within the network. It's called lateral movement. They will find a user that has higher privileges and they try to elevate their privileges. And this is called privilege escalation. Once they have done that, they have ultimately become system administrator for that system. And then lastly is the report writing. So as explained just now, whatever that was done between 1 to 4 will be summarized into one report and presented to the company's executive management, for example. So we move on to why pentesting. And I think recently this year, during this Brunei Cybersecurity Conference, it was reported that the rate of cybercrime in Brunei is increasing. And if you look at the global statistics here, it is quite concerning. And, you know, 632,000, not million, right? 1,000, 1,000, right? Okay, 632,000 ransomware attacks. Ransomware attack is still common. Even last week, I was reading through one, there was a ransomware attack in Yamaha, Philippines. Yeah, just something I came across last week. 30,000 websites attacked every day, 90% of it are due to phishing. So social engineering, people clicking on phishing links, that is ultimately the cause of it. And to share, so 90% of data breaches are due to phishing. So usually what happens is they will send a phishing link or an email with a malicious attachment. Once the user clicks on it, the attackers will gain access and then they will launch some kind of exploit. Thank you. And then this exploit is usually ransomware. Okay. Another reason why pen testing is needed is that 3.5 million it was reported in 2021, 3.5 million cybersecurity positions were unfilled. That's quite a lot. I hope that one day this 3.5 million will be majority filled up by Bruneians. Let's try to achieve that target very, very soon. Yeah. And then the last reason is there's this famous quote by Mike Tyson: "Everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth." So meaning to say that sometimes certain organizations or companies, they think that they cannot be hacked, but in reality, they have to be prepared for any sort of attacks. There's a famous saying that it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. So most important, the most advanced companies, they always assume breach, meaning to say that the way they operate in a way that they are already hacked. Always practicing what's called the zero trust architecture. Always practicing the two-factor authentication within the organization. So all of these practices will increase decrease the rate, decrease the chances of being attacked. Companies, they don't know how strong that network is until they are fully tested. Now, how to get started. So this is the roadmap for pentesting. And number one is you have to make sure you have the basic IT skills. I'm pretty sure all of you already have that. And then second one is the fundamentals. We'll go deeply on the fundamentals in the next slide. Fundamentals usually consist of networking, Linux, and scripting. So these are the three things that you need to have. Once you have that, then you can move on to number three, which is the cybersecurity fundamentals. Once you finish with the basics of cybersecurity and the fundamentals of networking, Linux, and scripting, then you can move on to doing the actual practical hacking. Then number five is when you become a professional cybersecurity analyst, professional penetration tester. Earlier this morning, there was a talk about creating cybersecurity. So stage 5 is all about getting paid to do a pen test for cybersecurity in general. So fundamentals. I have a QR code here where this is the resources that I used to study these three fundamentals. All of them are on YouTube. All of them are free. First one is networking skills. Just remember that you just need to have the basics for all three. You do not need to be an expert in all three of them. Number one, networking skills. You need to know the basic knowledge of what is an IP address, what are port numbers, what is the TCP/IP protocol, what is the OSI model. Because usually when you start doing a penetration test, you're given an IP address. And then within that IP address, there's a tool that you need to run that uncovers that IP address. So behind the IP address, there's port numbers. So you need to know what are port numbers. So it's quite some prerequisite information that you need to at least have the basics of. Second is Linux. We use Kali Linux a lot. And Kali Linux is pretty much the operating system or distribution that has a lot of the cybersecurity tools. And Linux, just the basic Linux skills. You need to know how to change directories. You need to know how to execute scripts. So just the basic commands. Lastly is scripting. So if you are a developer, you will have an advantage on this. But for me, I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. So for me, I know how to at least read some code. So that is already efficient. Because you will encounter certain situations where you will need to download a script from GitHub, for example. You need to be able to know how to read that script and change certain values or variables in that script to fit in with what you are trying to exploit. So once again, let me summarize. Just make sure to keep the basics. All three. For me, all three, I think now I'm pretty strong at networking, but not if you. I can configure a firewall. I can configure a switch. But in terms of Linux and scripting, it's basic at its best. We will touching once again to building fundamentals. So I created this pyramid where at the bottom is your key fundamentals that you have. In the middle is cybersec knowledge and hacking. So to further explain this, down at the bottom is usually what I explained just now, which is your Linux skills, your networking skills, and your scripting skills. Because cybersecurity is basically a skill set that builds on top of another skill set that builds on top of another skill set. So for example, if we were to put SQL injection on top of hacking and on top of this pyramid, and if you don't have prior knowledge to SQL injection, you will know how to do it, but you will not understand why you need to do it. So that is why if you want to do an SQL injection attack, you need to understand about SQL, some SQL language, and you need to know what port number a database is at, what is the IP address of that database. And in Kali Linux, there is a tool called SQL SQL map, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So you need to know how to use that tool as well. So that involves knowing about the basics of Kali Linux too. I will take another example: password cracking. Before you understand how to do or what password cracking is, you need to know what is hashing. You need to know what is encryption, password policies, what are the common types of password policies. And then, so same thing as well with password cracking. You need to know what is the IP address of the password. And then in Kali Linux, there is a tool of password cracking such as Hydra, John the Ripper. So it's important to know how to execute these commands. In my experience, when I was doing my self-studying, I actually jumped on SQL injection first without even knowing the basic fundamentals or the cybersecurity knowledge of it. And it was a total struggle. So lesson learned on that. So you have to make sure to get those fundamentals in first before jumping straight into the practical, ethical hacking part of it. And besides the technical knowledge, there are other soft skills that you need to have, such as learning to learn. I said early on when I started this presentation, is you will encounter a lot of failures, a lot of situations where you try to exploit the box or you try to exploit the system and it doesn't work. So try to not give up and really find other ways in order to enter into that system. It takes time to build this type of mentality, and always try to learn to learn. Another reason is that IT is always changing. What you might be an expert at now might be irrelevant in 5 years. So always really adapt to it and be open to learning new things. What was I going to say? Even you have to adopt on the changes within IT, because the attacker or the hacker, they also adopt as well. So there's always new ways of doing a cybersecurity attack. Next one is network with others. So always attend workshops like what you are doing now. Active learning. For me, when I was doing my self-studying, I had from 8 to 5 I was working, and then from after I came back from work, I spent about 2 to 3 hours every day during the weekends just doing self-studying, cybersecurity, and all the fundamentals. So this was actually made easier with when we had COVID. So there was a lot of work from home, and my schedule was from 7 to 10 p.m. doing cybersecurity during the weekdays, and then during the weekends, 5 hours total for about two years. And this included also certifications too. Certifications to just validate myself and just give myself the confidence. Think about it in a way that if you go home, some people they spend like 2 or 3 hours watching Netflix, right? So why don't you replace that with cybersecurity knowledge and really investing in yourself? Third one is avoid information overload. Don't try to learn everything all at once. We go back to that pyramid, right? Where if you want to learn about a certain cybersecurity attack, at the bottom of it, there is always a lot of prerequisite information that you need to learn. And also sources, you can have a lot of multiple sources. Like when you go to YouTube, you type the term cybersecurity, there's a lot of content creators out there that give you a lot of information. So just find the one that works for you, and don't continuously move from one person to another, because they will have different ways of explaining and different ways of teaching you. Find the one that is suitable for you. Okay, so I think this is the final slide. So continuing on to my journey. So after that curiosity part in 2011, I made the switch to IT in 2013 and graduated with a master's degree in IT in 2014. After that, from 2015 to 2020, I worked in various roles within IT. Not really about cybersecurity, but mostly on the infrastructure, heavily on the infrastructure part, such as networking and being a server administrator during those 5 years. And then from 2020 to 2022, that's when I started doing self-studying in cybersecurity. And with that investment in time and also investing in certifications, I managed to become a certified junior Pentester earlier in the summer of this year. All right, so lessons learned, key takeaways, is it for me, is it for you? So to conclude all of this, it's basically for penetration testing or ethical hacking is more on how you think and how you approach a problem. How do you solve that problem instead of the technical skills? The three things that you need to have as a person is curiosity. Curiosity meaning to say that if you see a system or you see a hardware, you ask questions such as, how do I access this? How do I hack it? What does it do? How does it react if I execute this command? So something like that, like a curiosity type of mindset. And this goes hand in hand with being open to challenges. Even if the system denies you access, you still want to be able to look at it as a challenge and an opportunity to find other ways to exploit it and hack it. And then lastly is persistence. Sorry. So never giving up on trying to exploit the system, and not really, basically not accepting no as an answer when you want to access into the system. All right, so that is the presentation, and so that was about 30 minutes. So let's move on to the TryHackMe demo. Okay, so let's just get this attack box started. If you don't know what TryHackMe is it's basically similar to Hack the Box. It's a training platform for people who want to get into cybersecurity. It's free. You can sign up and you can create an account and sign up. It's totally free. There are some boxes that are free and some boxes that require a subscription. I use this. I've been a TryHackMe member for about a year, more than a year, and it's definitely helped me in practicing all those networking skills and the fundamentals and the cybersecurity knowledge. Usually what TryHackMe provides is that they will provide you with different type of boxes from beginner all the way to the advanced. So for this box, it's called Brooklyn 99, and it's quite an easy. I chose this box because it really provides. I can provide a good explanation of the stages of hacking and whatnot. So usually when you go into a box, they give you a certain task. And in this case, it's like capture the flag, CTF, where you need to find out to use the flag and also the root flag. Brooklyn 99, this room is aimed for beginner level hackers, but anyone can try this box. There are two main intended ways to root the box. The room is aimed for beginner level hackers, but anyone can try this box. There are two main ways to attend. If you find more, okay. Right, so what do I? Okay, we'll just wait for this to load.
Showing?
All right. Okay, so we're in. So let's just open terminal. And usually, if you open these attack boxes, they provide you with similar to a Kali Linux box. And the tools and the password lists are come pre-installed here, so you don't need to host your own Kali Linux machine in your laptop. It's quite convenient. So usually, the first stage of hacking is reconnaissance and getting information, right? So based on the information that we have, oh wait, I haven't started the machine yet. Hold on. Where's the IP address? Where's the IP address? Just give me a moment. Okay. Okay, so we have the IP address already. And let me just show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so IP address is usually here. Okay, so let's go back to the Linux machine. So 10.10.226.71. See it's up 10.10.10.226.71. Oops. All right, it's up. So the first stage of hacking is reconnaissance, information gathering, and usually, or a majority of the time, we use a tool called Nmap, stands for network mapping. So what this does is that it scans the whole network. It tries to find out which ports are open, what kind of operating system that the IP address is, if the machine has an IP address, then it can detect the operating system as well. So all these nifty information that we really need. So we'll do Nmap, and then usually I'll try to put in some flags, such as the information that it provides is a lot faster, and also it provides the information that I really need. So T4 is making sure that it loads up. The scan is very fast. -v and then 10.10.226.71. Right. So now it's running. Let me put in one more like here. All right, so the Nmap scan is complete. And what information that we are really looking at is this one. So there is port, there is state, there is service, and then there's the version. Port numbers, we have port 21, we have port 22, and then we have port 18, all right? And then the state usually meaning to say if it's open or it's closed. So if it's open, that's when to target it if it's open. If it's closed, then we have no chance of trying to exploit if it's closed. Version is generally what version that port is running. So if you look at here, there is SSH, we have SSH, HTTP, and FTP. Generally, the practice sometimes is when we see SSH, we try to avoid that because that's very secure, and it's very challenging to actually exploit SSH unless you have a weak password. So we'll look at HTTP and we'll look at FTP. So HTTP is, as you all may know, that's the web browser. So let's take a look at let's try to visit this website and see what it shows here. So HTTP 10.226.71, and we see that there is an image. Oh, there's wording at the bottom. This example creates a full page background image. Try to resize the window to see how it will cover the full screen, and it scales nicely on all screen sizes. In CTFs, generally, they will all leave some sort of clues within the website, and general people who always play capture the flag, they will try to do additional information gathering of the website. And usually, we always look at the page source, see if there are any notes hidden by the developer. And here it is. Have you heard of steganography? So if you don't know what steganography is basically if you have an image, you can actually put in information within that image. So it's basically hiding something inside of your photo. And there are certain tools that can actually extract that information outside of that photo. So this box already gives us a clue on how we can find, let's say, username or a password using this image. So when it says during the description, in the description of this box, it said that there's more than 2 ways to root the system. This is one of them. But I'm going to show you another way to actually root it. So we looked at HTTP already, so let's look at FTP, port 21. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. Oh, by the way, HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. FTP, File Transfer Protocol, it's a protocol that is used to transfer files between two endpoints, two hosts. So before I go into this FTP server, we look at this description. So we already mentioned about port 21. It's open. It's FTP. But here it says anonymous FTP login allowed. So that's quite dangerous because it's basically saying that anybody who types in the word anonymous can actually log into the FTP server. So if we do an FTP with the IP address 10.10.226.71, so it's asking for a name. If we type in anonymous, as just like what the nmap scan was saying, it's asking for a password if we do at the end. Can you all see? You want me to zoom in? Let me just zoom in for you. Okay. So now we're inside the FTP server. So again, Linux commands, usually what I do sometimes is I try to list out all the files and folders inside this FTP server, and here we are. So there's a note there, node _2_Jake. So let's download that. Get node to Jake.txt. All right, so it's downloaded, so we don't have to look at this FTP server again because it only contains that txt file. Let's turn this off. So we downloaded the txt file. Let's see where it is. Okay, there it is. Let's do a cat node to Jake.txt. So it says, from Amy, Jake, please change your password. it is too weak, and halt will be met if someone hacks into the 99. Based on this information, we can conclude that we have 3 usernames: one Amy, one Jake, one halt. And it says that Jake has a weak password. So going back to the stages of hacking, we already got our information. So we found a potential exploit here. So the exploit is the person or the user with the username Jake has a weak password. So let's run our password cracking tool. So it's called the 2 most common ones are John the Ripper and Hydra. But for this situation, because we're trying to brute force a username, we're going to use Hydra. And I'm assuming that this SSH port, which is open, we can use the username Jake to log into that SSH server. So let's go Hydra. And usually if you're trying to use a new tool, you type in the tool and then do a -H. So this will provide you with a manual and guidance as well on how to use the tool. And there's some examples of on what commands you need to run in order to execute the tool. So let's go Hydra -L to use a Jake, and -E is providing the password list. So in this case, because the password list is located in a certain folder, so I'm going to provide the directory path /user.share/wordlists/rockq.txt. Again, this is just the directory path of the password file. If you are doing this at home, if you have a Kali Linux box at home, if you have your password list in your desktop, so you put in the directory path of your password list. So since we're trying to target SSH, so we go SSH and type in the IP address 10.226.71, and let's run it. So let's see how fast we can actually break Jake's password. So it's running. And there you are. 987654321. Obviously, it's a weak password, so that's why it's very fast. But in a real life situation, password cracking can take maybe days, maybe even weeks. So that is why cybersecurity people working in cybersecurity always advise you to use complex passwords with combination of numbers, special characters, things like that. Because if you put in 9765431, or the most common one is password 123, ABC 123, all of that, it can easily be breakable by certain hackers. So we found a password. So let's enter this SSH server using this username. So SSH Jake at 10.10.326.71. Password 987654321. And we're in. Again, once you're in, always list down what kind of files and folders are inside. Just remember, we are trying to search for that user.txt file and also that root.txt file. Also print working directory, which is the location of where you're at. So we are at home/Jake. So let's go one directory above to see what is in there. So we have other users folders in here. Let's go to Amy, see if there's any user.txt files. Nope, it's not there. You can actually search. Linux has a search function. I'm not going to use that. Let's just go through all these directories and see if we can locate that user.txt file. So we're in Halt's directory, and there it is. So we found the user flag, so let's just cat it out. And there is our first flag. All right, so let's just paste that into our TryHackMe. Right, so we paste it in the user flag, we submit, and yep, that's the correct one. So let's go to finding out the root flag, and this usually means we need to escalate our privileges because we are currently still, we are currently still as we are a normal user, so we want to be able to elevate our privileges. So we are having normal permissions, but we are inside the box, but we want to elevate our privileges to become root. So since this is a Linux box, there are a lot of resources out there that provide you with different types of ways to how to escalate privileges in Linux. I don't think I'm going to go through that today because that's quite a lot of information. But generally, if you are inside of, if you manage to hack your way inside the Linux box, let's clear this off first. What hackers or penetration testers usually do when they are inside Linux box is that they will do a sudo-l. So this sudo-l command basically is asking or is checking with the system itself as to what kind of sudo privileges does the user Jake have. So if we enter, by the way, sudo means that you are a super user. So we run the command, and then we found that user Jake may run the following commands on the Brooklyn 99 server, which is no password /user/bin/less. Don't worry if you don't know what that means, but what this means is that we can see that usually what I do is that I see that, okay, there's this less folder that the user Jake has sudo privileges to, and there is a very popular website called, we'll go to GTFO bins. It's basically a GitHub page that will provide you assistance on what to do when you're checking sudo privileges. It provides you information on what to do with those privileges that you have. So here's GTFO bins, and then let's go to sudo, and let's try to find that less command. Yep, so there it is. And since we are on sudo, so it gives us a command on what to execute in order to successfully root this box. I think somebody who is on the technical side who is more technical Linux can explain what these these commands do. But what I'll try to explain at a high level. So what this command actually does is that it goes to the etc/profile, and this is, I think, it's the configuration of the Linux box itself. And let's execute this command first, and then we'll see the output from that. Sudo less etc profile, right? Yeah. So we're inside of the configuration box of configuration profile of this Linux box, and then it asks us to write down this bin.sh. So this is basically you are creating a shell. So if I go paste it there, paste it there, no, okay, let's paste it there. Does it work? Nope, it's not gonna work. Okay, just give me a moment. Yep, hold on. All right, let's see. Sometimes you won't get it in the first time, right? Okay, so let's SSH again, jake.10.10.226.71. Password is 987654321. Okay, sudo -l and then sudo less /profile. And if we go back to /bin/sh. Exclamation mark /bin/sh. And we are, so if we do a who am I, yep. So we already compromised this box based on that command that we executed. So let's try to find that root flag. So we're still in Jake. Usually this root flag is located in the root folder. We do an lsla, let's list down the file. So there's that root folder, right? Let's go into that directory. And there it is. There's the root flag. So cat root.txt. And we managed to root the Brooklyn 99 box. Okay, so let's paste that into the TryHackMe menu. Okay, so we're done. So that is just a very easy and simple example. This is very straightforward. This box is very straightforward, but there are a lot of way challenging boxes that the best of the best hackers can. For them, it's easy. For me, it's a challenge. But the purpose of this is to provide you an educational practical of what it really looks like in a CTF, or what it really looks like when how the real world usually is when they try to hack into those boxes. So with that, that ends the demonstration, and then we can move on to the Q&A.
Now we will be entering the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or type your questions in the Q&A chat online.
You have to become an ethical hacker to get into cybersecurity, or you have to study about cybersecurity to become one? Which comes first?
Good question. So cybersecurity is general, meaning to say that under the umbrella of cybersecurity, there is ethical hackers, there are cybersecurity defenders, there are people who give awareness, and there are people who are like the general cybersecurity management of how to respond whenever there is a breach or incident. It depends on what kind of skill set that you have. If you are a person that has a very strong technical background, you can easily become like a ethical hacker or somebody who can keep the network very strong. If you are not interested in the technical part but would like to get into cybersecurity, then there are roles within cybersecurity such as people who give awareness talks, people who can write down certain policies like frameworks and what to do whenever there is a breach. There are certain actually laws for that. The frameworks is very important, so that really contains the scope and the plan of what to do whenever there's a cybersecurity attack. So frameworks and developing those frameworks requires people who don't have the technical background but have that knowledge in law or any sort of public policy education. I think to answer the question, I don't think either one comes close. But some people, they get into it, maybe not ethical hacking, but some people, they get into hacking without knowing too much about cybersecurity because they just hack into the system without knowing what are the repercussions of that. Because they have that, hackers usually have that strong technical background and they have that curiosity mindset. They just want to break things instead of caring about the security of it.
And you can choose which part you want to break or you want to make. It's your choice.
Yeah, you can either defend or you can either. So there's three types. There's people who defend. These are generally called the blue team. There's people who attack. They're called the red team. And then in the middle there is something called the purple team that does both. That does defending and then does attacking too.
Okay, so as you always want to ask, have you ever considered Harith OS?
I've heard of it. So it's for those who don't know, Parrot OS is similar to Kali, if I'm not mistaken. It's basically another option to do penetration testing and ethical hacking. I've looked into it, but I've never tried to install it. But I'll see if I have the time, then I'll check it out and try to install it on my laptop virtually.
Sophie asked, does Pentesting also help you with IoT and smart home?
If you want to do pen testing on your IoT and at home, go ahead. But make sure to do it within your house or within your own devices, and do not do it on somebody else because that is considered a cybercrime already. IoT and smart homes, it's very easy to do penetration testing on it because generally it's only the OS of it is only Android or Linux. So the original architecture of it is basically the same, meaning to say that if you want to run some tools on it, whether it's Linux or Android, it's the same. So to summarize, yeah, you can do ethical hacking or pen testing on your smart homes, but keep in mind, do it in your home. Do not do it on your neighbor's smart light or on your neighbor's IoT. Keep it within your network. Okay. Yeah.
How does pen testing adapt to cloud environment and what are the challenges to overcome these scenarios?
So there's two questions there. So the first one is you're asking if penetration testing applies to cloud environment. Yes, there are certain tools out there that you can install to do cloud penetration testing. In Kali Linux, there's one. I forgot the name of it. I know that Amazon AWS, they have their own tool for people to do penetration testing on their cloud. But keep in mind, if you're doing penetration testing on cloud, the rules of it, they differ from if you are doing penetration testing within your network. Because if you're in cloud, it's not hosted in the same environment as you. It's hosted somewhere else. And let's say if you want to do a pen test on your cloud, and then your cloud is hosted in Singapore or Europe. Singapore and Europe, they have a law that if you do a pen test, you need to get certain authorization, or there's certain laws that are applied. So yes, you can do a cloud pen test, but the laws, there are certain laws and protocols that you need to follow, get approved in order to conduct it. And then the second one is, what is it again? Sorry?
When testers do it on the cloud, what is the challenges they're going to face for doing this
For cloud?
For cloud.
Okay.
First is the legal.
Yeah.
Second is
most of it is actually legal, and then I would say second is maybe the time difference, the geographical challenges of because when you're doing a pen test there, you need to work with a group who is there as well. Yeah, there's certain unexpected things that can happen, especially when you deal with when your server is located outside. That there's a lot of more hurdles that you have to go through. Yeah, but yeah, it's quite challenging to do a cloud pen test. Yeah. Right. One question.
One more question. How much did you spend for self-study?
Right, good question. So if you include certifications itself, I have in total, starting from zero, like when I say zero, I mean from the network fundamentals to Linux, to scripting, to cybersecurity, to practical ethical hacking. If you include the certifications, it costs around 5K BND, which, if you think about it, is quite okay. So that includes certifications, because certifications are in general they are expensive. But if it's the training itself, it's less than 1K, probably around 700 BND in total. I know that maybe the price of it can be a bit steep, but you just have to look at it as an investment. Just investing in yourself, investing in your time, in order to take the benefits of the long run in the next 2 years or 3 years of self-studying. 5K might be a lot, but if you think about it, there are certain people that buy the new iPhone every year. And how much is one iPhone, the latest one? It's 3K, right? So 3K is already how many certifications? I think maybe 5 certifications already for 3K. So just make sure you properly choose which I know it's not about cybersecurity, but properly choose on what kind of things that you want to invest for yourself.
So which cert do you recommend taking, and what certificates did you learn?
So if you're talking about cybersecurity, there's I'll show you the link. So there's CompTIA Network Plus. Sorry, not CompTIA Network Plus. It's CompTIA Security Plus. Let me just provide you with the link to that. I'll share the link in the chat, and then I'll talk about it. Okay, so this certification is very good to get started in cybersecurity. I think better I share it on the screen. Hold on. Okay, so this is the CompTIA Security Plus. It's a good starting point for those who want to get into cybersecurity. I know a lot of people who are working in ITPSS, they have this certification as a prerequisite in order to work for them. It contains about 5 domains. Yeah, so these are the 5 domains that you will learn, all theoretical, no practical. So it's a good starting point if you want to get your first certification in cybersecurity. The exam is about 70 to 80 questions, all multiple choice, and they give you about I think 2.5 hours to complete the exam. I took this exam I think in 2021 and managed to pass it, and from there, so this was like the starting point, the baseline of it, and from there I moved on to more advanced cybersecurity certifications and eventually the practical part of it. Right, so I hope that answers the question. Anybody else?
We will be entering the comment session, which is
The good QR code. We have a QR code for it. Okay.
Do your best during the COVID session and your
It's a good session for the five questions, right? Five questions, and then there will be a prize at the end of the session for the top 3 winners. Good luck.
Rahman Harith from Noob to Pentester. How to get started?
Oh. So what are the 3 types of hackers? So you have 15, 14, 13, 10. All right. Fire is on top. What was the global shortage of cybersecurity professionals in 2021? Fire is still on top. True or false? Hackers only target big companies with lots of money. Right. Second to last question. What are the fundamentals to get in cybersecurity? Wow, BK moved on top. Final one. In Brunei, what is the main cause of cybersecurity incidents? Phishing. Okay, so number 3, we have Pak here. Second, we have BK, and then first is Good. Right. Congratulations. I think you guys provide the prize, right? Surprises, they can collect from you. Okay. All right, so just make sure to pass all your details to the volunteers. All right, thanks for coming, everybody. It was nice meeting you all. Thank you.